can't say like, I don't know. I was just, this blonde that was living the career and no one told me anything. I gave him the money and I used my credit card and I had no control over anything. But then be so very aware of everything that's going on. It doesn't work like that.
Well, that's how I felt about the, like, I can't leave because I wouldn't have access to the credit cards. Well, but you have $600,000 per for whatever. Why are you handing it over? Why don't you say, this is my money I'm making? I understand.
Because she was for sure outspending what, and we talked about this last week. She was for sure outspending what she was taking home from the 600,000. Easy.
Yeah, but wouldn't you still want your own money and just spend it on, I guess he's just like, if you want the credit cards handed over and I'll pay for the rest, I guess.
Well, maybe it was also because they were married, and didn't she say they didn't have a prenup? And she's like, I mean, that was way back when she would say, like, we don't have a prenup. I'm married to Tom and trust me, he will handle this. And, there's no reason for a prenup because it wouldn't matter anyway, type thing, which is really a crock of shit too. I mean, give me a break.
Right.
Yes, you can argue a prenup after so long, but my God, if you're married for 20 years, yeah.
But I had this, I did have moments where I felt, I think it was that, right. I think it was that. And I don't know what else. There was other things she said where I really got literally the same thing you did, where I was like, I'm having moments.
Yeah, because I think that you can't discount that she was so young when she met him, and that there probably was a huge imbalance of power in the relationship. And I think that being a female and, and for that long, I'm sure when he came along and she met him, she was a waitress, she had a young child, and he was a savior to her. This is long before she had the Erika Jayne career. She was probably, getting dressed up in a nice outfit and going to these boring cocktail parties, and, and they'd throw the big Christmas party for the law firm every year, and she could mingle with, I've seen this. I've seen a lot of relationships like this. I haven't seen a lot of people that turn into Erika Jayne and become all of a sudden this performer spending $40,000 a month, and a husband that goes off and spends victims' money. And I do think that they will find out. I think they're going to find out that it's been going on for a long time. And I think that these NDAs, and I don't know how they'll figure this out, but I remember reading something a long time ago that every time they settled a lawsuit, that they were always had to sign non-disclosure agreements. And I'm sure the people were grateful to get some money. And so they'll sign the NDAs. And it's like, you want the money? You want $5 million? Sign the NDA and move on down the road. And when you're dealing with a high-powered attorney, you just got to get out.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Whereas I would never sign something my husband will put in front of me, whatever my attorneys have said to sign or do. I'm like, oh, well, okay, sure. I mean, I ask a few questions, but then I'm like, okay, I'll sign on the dotted line. Yeah. Do you think it was going on with Tom before he met Erika, like that long? Like this was, or do you think it was like, shit, I have to keep this woman and I can't lose my trophy?
No, I wouldn't say. I don't know how I have no clue, but I do think it's been, there was something that I read that it's been going on for over 10 years. I don't know. I mean, and they said tonight on the reunion that he just would tell the same stories over and over again. And that was like, he just was on a loop of telling the same things. I can see that. And, my mom has dementia, and my mom doesn't tell stories like Tom so much. And I think that there's different levels of dementia, and he does tell those stories. But if this guy was going to the office every day, and if he has bookkeepers and accountants and partners, even if they were, smaller partners in the firm, someone had to see what was going on. Someone knew that the victims weren't being paid their settlement. Someone was handling all this stuff. He cannot be the only one that took that law firm down. Sorry.
No, I agree. And I mean, I don't know. I've been around. I think that you also it starts slow, but I think you can tell when strange things happen with someone's memory or dementia, not the big stuff that we all eventually get to, but just little like, well, that's weird. And it means nothing because that's happened once, like even in a workplace. And
Sure.
then it happens again 3 months later, whatever it is, it's close enough that you're like, that's to me, the second time I found even like the tiniest little thing, I'd be like, well, that's weird. It could be as simple as someone asking you for something that you clearly talked about before. And then like the third time, it's like, it's so minor, but it's a third time with the most minor thing. And now that would just be me. I've had this situation. I worked with someone once where like it was a horrible thing. They got in like a horrible bike accident and like really like almost died. And they were in like, so it was like at Martha Stewart, like they were in a coma and everything. And then they survived and then they came back to work at Martha Stewart. And like, you didn't notice anything at first. I mean, literally they fell on their head. There was no helmet. So, but it was like, I was like one of the first ones to notice it. I'm just like, it's just weird. Like I was just asked if we're doing lunch for a second time, which you could just be like, this person's anal. They want to make sure we're going like, it was so minor. And I was like, that to me is weird. And then sure enough, it became a whole thing where like short-term memory was like just gone. But I don't know. So I just think like with the time, if I worked with this person, it would be minor, but I'd be like, that is so strange. And now it's the third time. And like, someone needs to have a conversation behind closed doors about Tom there. That would be me.
Right. And and she did say that she was telling people, that there's something wrong and no one was listening to her. Okay. But then in the same sense, if you know something like that's going on and this person wouldn't you just like kind of not take advantage of that situation and maybe say, hey, the money machine isn't generating and, I don't know.
Right.
You know
like
what I
you
mean?
would say like, you're
It ain't-
going downhill and like, I need to look into this and like maybe stop spending and
Right. Yeah. I don't know, but I guess sometimes I think, when you think about what you would do, or I think about what I would do and what makes sense to us, we view it with our eyes and what our lifestyle and what our, situation has taught us. And someone that, like Erika, who grew up in a totally different environment and has had to survive on her own and just constantly, make it work. She's just thinking, I got to keep pushing and I got to, keep this moving.
Yes.
And until, the credit card is closed off and they tell me it's done, I'm going to keep going.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, I understand not leaving because like you may not have had it. Like, that's where I was like, she's kind of contradicting herself because like, if you're living in this huge house and like you said, he's having affairs and you never see him. And then it's like, that's not so bad. Like, do you know what I'm saying? If you're Erika, I'm just saying like, that's different than I was so miserable. I had to get out, but I was scared because I wouldn't have any access to the credit cards versus like, it wasn't bad. Like right. She came and went as she wanted. You see these scenes being filmed where she has everyone in her squad creative. They're all in the closet. Like you're basically having like 15 friends over every night in this mansion and drinking all the wine. And I mean, right. So it's not that bad a life. It's not right. Like go and have your affairs, please. Like, it's not such a bad life. It's almost like it's a different story of now you were miserable in the affairs and you were scared to leave. It's like, you can't have it both ways.
Right.
Right. I don't know.